Yes, thank you, Jamie. I did hit record, but I didn't hit all the right choices, so it wasn't actually recording. Now it is. So thank you. Okay, so next slide, Bruce. Okay, so the check-in prompt that we had for today, we're just wondering what you all are doing in your libraries now so far as patrons coming in. I mean, and what we're really wondering about is whether or not you have contact with children and teens in person. Because what did this discussion come out of, Bruce? We were talking about.
Oh, we were talking about the 10-minute wellness program that we do with director Tammy. And there was the person that we have speaking right now, she is talking a lot about school-age children and how they're reacting. And there's a lot of information about how kids are acting out and how people are how they're acting internally to the stress of the pandemic right now. It's a pretty good series, but the question arose amongst Sue-Lyn and Norma and I were like, well, how many libraries are actually having in-person interactions with their kids or to even notice these things?
Yes, thank you.
Here in Winnemucca, in June we started appointment only, and then in August we moved to walk-ins welcome, but we only have one point of entry, so we can maintain our numbers. So we have a maximum capacity that is allowed in. So we started the first little bit, a lot of people, we tried getting it out there, letting everyone know how things changed and everything. So it was slow for a while, but we're starting to get families in, especially once September hit and school started. So they can come in and they can browse books and everything like that, but no in-person programming, all pickups and everything like that. But it's interesting. We still have a lot of families that are choosing not to, but we're getting, I mean, on a busy day, I probably have seen at most like 14 families in one day. And it's wonderful. I miss them. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Have you hit capacity, Jamie? Or no? You've never had to worry about that?
We've gotten close because ours is 25. We've gotten close, but we haven't hit it where we had to actually do anything about it. If we do hit our capacity, we just have to have the doors locked and wait till enough people leave and we unlock the doors and have it go back to walk-in.
Right.
Haven't had to yet though. Luckily, because there's no tables and chairs out, so there's, besides just the computer area, there's nowhere for people to sit. So that was to help discourage mingling around, so that they could get in, grab their books, movies, whatever that they needed, and then get out, just so that we could keep that number down and service some people. Because if we had people, like 10 people who just wanted to sit in the library all day long, then that would severely cut into how many people could be in at one time. But we have our Wi-Fi connected at all times, so we have people outside that sits on their laptops and their tablets using the internet.
One of the observations that I read on ARSL were that people were coming in and staying for the full hour just to talk to somebody because they haven't had the ability to talk to anyone in a while. And have you had that happen?
Yes, we definitely have that happen. When we were in the appointment stage, where it was like the entire time the moms would sit there just at the desk and talk to us while their kids were browsing. The kids already had their books at this point, and they just want to sit there and talk. but it's really hard because we can't have any toys out. So then the kids are getting bored and everything. We have a patron too that every day they're on the back side where we have to take garbage out using Wi-Fi, and they just every day we always take out garbages early because we know that they want to just talk to us. That's definitely something we've noticed a lot is always we have that, especially like our elderly patrons in the past before COVID, because they see people less, and then now with everything going on, even more so, and a lot of stay-at-home parents and only children, like don't have siblings. Those are usually elderly, stay-at-home parents, and only child are the issues that I've noticed the most of feeling secluded and really needing that extra contact.
There is a little bit of an additional comment I would like to make is that what we heard from our these seminars on Tuesday is that the suicide rate is going up.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's good for all, and especially probably for teenagers as well. And, you know, and it might be in our interest to be aware of what those signs might look like. So if you get a chance, go to the Nevada State website and check out the 10-minute wellness programs to learn what some of those signs might be. And also to, you know, the instructor, she also talks about how to like help gauge a person and reconnect a person to know that they're not as isolated as they think they are. Depression is running amok right now. And I think it would be, you know, we're one of the few places that actually do have in-person contact to a limited degree. And I think that makes people who are hurting gravitate toward the libraries. So if you can make your patrons aware of maybe suicide prevention hotline, or, you know, maybe put out some pamphlets to make sure, you know, that, you know, letting people know that this is a stressful time. We all understand it, but there's help out there. Thank you.
Thank you.
No, that was a good summary, Bruce, of what she's talked about on Tuesday. I mean, she had some statistics that were pretty eye-opening about teens and young adults, that 1 in 4 teens or young adults have responded to a survey saying that they had had suicidal thoughts recently, which, I mean, that's just a huge number. And she said that teens and young adults that she was defining between the ages of like 18 and 24 are being affected by the pandemic more than other age groups. So that's just something to keep in mind if you do have an opportunity to come into contact with them. So Joy or Betsy, I know I've seen on Facebook what you're doing. You don't have to make appointments now, right? But are you still doing curbside only, but without appointments, or are you letting people in the building?
Did you want to talk, Betsy?
Okay, so today's our first day to do curbside without appointments. And we are not yet letting people into our buildings. Eddie, our facilities guy, has been really busy trying to get the plexiglass together for our desks, but that's not in place yet. And of course, at Paseo Verde, we had, right when everything closed, we were recarpeting. So it looks so pretty, and we really want our patrons to be able to see how pretty our library is. So hopefully someday soon they'll be able to come in.
But your
Well, the good
carpet
news
will
is-
stay that much nicer, that much longer, right?
That was my point. It's like, hey, it's going to look a lot better for a lot longer.
This is true. We do have the coffee shop, so people are allowed to bring food and drink in.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
That is a nice bonus that people really appreciate, but it does have a downside.
hmm,
Yeah.
yeah.
When Jamie said that they're getting window clings for their plexiglass to decorate it, and I remember you talking about that before, and I was thinking when we were talking about the summer reading theme for 2022 being oceanography, weren't you talking about doing fish or sea life or something like that? So a fish tank, yeah. So
Yeah.
that
It's a
ties in
big aquarium.
perfectly. You can submit that to the summer reading manual for 2022.
You know, just figure out a good species names for librarians.
Mm.
You know, what kind of fish is the librarian?
Biblio.
Biblio no swimmus.
And so Mandy from Pershing says they've only seen a few kids and teens, mostly adults coming to pick up kids' books since school started. Still curbside. Washoe's doing grab and go and seeing very few children's and teens.
Yeah.
So it seems like the consensus is that there are not that many kids and teens in the libraries yet. So are there other topics that you all wanted to talk about? Have you all been keeping in track of the OCLC, the Realm study on handling library materials? I don't know if you've been paying attention to that. They've completed the next round and it showed that the virus was still active on materials longer. Well, the first round of the study that they did books, but they weren't stacked. And in the last round that they did, they stacked the books and found that the virus was still active longer. But they just say that the virus is detectable, which they don't necessarily say what that means so far. You know, it's detectable, but does that mean that it's viable? Does it mean that, you know, someone's could actually get the virus from touching materials? But it's just interesting that as they keep doing the studies, the results change, which makes sense. I mean, that's why you just study, right? But okay, so Pam says they're quarantining items for 7 days, so that is in line with the latest recommendations or the results from the last study. And the next round of the study, they're doing cloth, like upholstery fabric, and the material that bags are made out of. So that's interesting, because I was kind of putting a lot of faith in the first study that said that the virus wasn't detectable after 3 days. So I was kind of just extending that to other things, not just library materials, and kind of thinking, well, okay, you know, it goes away after 3 days or whatever, so you don't really have to worry about it. And I'm kind of rethinking that a little bit. I mean, it still seems like touching items is not the main source of transmission by any means, but it still is something you have to be aware of.
This is Betsy. I had a question about that for the people who allow patrons to come in and browse their books. Do you have them like pull off the books if they've used it or looked at it and choose not to take it? And then it goes into a quarantine, or how does that work? Or does it just stay on the shelf?
I've used the Carson City Library, and they allow browsing, and if they have any signs about not putting books back, I haven't noticed them. So I mean, I know that I have probably taken books off the shelf and looked at them and put them back. But I mean, and I always think about that when I'm in the store too. If I'm at the grocery store and I pick up something and then I put it back, I'm like, oh, that probably wasn't the right thing to do.
Yeah.
But you know, I mean, I guess where's the line between being properly cautious and being reasonable?
Yeah, that's our exact mentality, is that going to the grocery store, things don't get put back on the shelves. We have a hand washing station before they enter, and we have hand sanitizer upstairs and downstairs. So we just ask that they wash their hands before. We have shelf markers, so that we're trying to have them just kind of pull out, look and see, and discourage like kids just going around and pulling off a lot of books and everything, like having the parents around with them to help encourage like looking through the books together, and rather than just pulling a bunch of books and the parents putting all the other ones back. Like if the parents going along with them, they tend to actually pull books that they're going to take home. But just hand washing, and that's the main thing, because it's kind of like if people are going into Walmart, they're touching materials and putting them back. So we couldn't do a quarantine or sanitizing wherever they go, because it's you literally have to follow behind them and wipe everything as you go along.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
When Mandy commented in chat that they have their books standing and spread out while they're quarantining them, and they let people browse new books in the lobby on carts with fair warning that they can't keep them clean, which makes sense, especially, I mean, you have new books. I mean, that's definitely where people are going to pick up a book and look at it and read the blurb on the jacket and decide whether or not they want it. And that was one of the main points from the OCLC study, was the difference between books that were stacked or not stacked. So if you are standing them up or laying them out flat rather than stacked, that seems like it's better. But I read a comment today that I don't think I read the whole the whole comment, or I can't remember the whole gist of it, but it was that the study is done in perfect lab conditions. So, you know, the results from the lab are not going to be the same as in the library anyway. And I'm not sure what the implications of that are so far as whether or not the virus is going to last longer in the library or in the lab. I don't know. So, anything else you want to talk about?
Well, actually, I do have something for everybody to think about next summer reading program, because I read this idea online and I totally went, why didn't we think of this? But one of the libraries that was during the pandemic part, where nobody was coming into the libraries but still doing the summer reading program, they decided to hold a live raffle for the summer reading program. And they said that their numbers of viewings went through the roof because there was a lot of suspense and things like that. So that might, if we're still in this situation next summer, this might be something we want to consider to do. Or even if we're not in this situation, this is something you guys might want to think about. Live rally, the suspense, the drama, it's reality TV all happening from the library. And I just thought it was a wonderful idea and wish I had come up with it.
How
Thank you.
did it work? I mean, I'm not sure I understand.
Well, they had like a drawing for the prizes, and they were doing them live. Like they would have the stuff in their basket or whatever, and they would pull out the name of the winner and read it, announce it as it was happening.
So you mean like the prize drawing at the end of this? At the
end
end?
of the
Okay.
summer reading,
Okay.
yeah,
Now gotcha.
I'm sorry, at the end of the summer reading program.
Yeah.
I should have been more descriptive. But I thought it was a wonderful idea and maybe something you guys could consider.
It'll be interesting to see what next summer looks like, huh? When Jamie says that they did that and they ended up getting covered in silly string and water. So Jamie, was the grand prize that they got to spray you and Jasmine with silly string?
We couldn't have them there, so we couldn't do that, but we had grand prizes for each of our groups and everything. We pulled their names live, and it was fun because a lot of the families were watching it live that happened to be the ones that got their names pulled. So they're like in the comment section going, "Oh my gosh, we're so excited!" But then since they beat our community goal for how many days we wanted to have read during the summer, we were like, well, we have to come up with something silly and weird, kind of like for Pi Day, we get pied in the face. But so we had one of our staff members, as we were sitting there talking, "Thank you guys, blah, 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 blah." They like jumped out from somewhere and sprayed us in silly string and like we poured water on ourselves. And so we were like soaked in water, and he jumped out and sprayed us in silly string. And so it was just kind of like a funny way to end the video, just as like a good job, you guys.
As long as it wasn't green slime.
Right? Honestly, someone was like, "You guys should do slime." I'm like, I have to work the rest of the day. We're doing this at like 11 in the morning. I don't want to be slimy all day. I'm okay doing that if it was at the end of the day.
Now you and Jasmine have done lots of things this summer. You've gone above and beyond for the cause.
We like to do some silly stuff. So it was fun.
Yeah, having fun's the important part.
When everything's back to normal, if anyone is able to replicate this program, I would totally recommend it. We did a kiddie pool full of oobleck, and the kids got to run on top of it. Oobleck is like almost like quicksand. It's a non-Newtonian fluid. And so the kids, when they're running on top of it, they stay on top, and as soon as they stop running, they sink right into it and they get stuck. And so we did that. That's a really fun, messy program. So if you have an outdoor area, I would recommend that. That's one messy program. And then we did paint drums as well, where we got like trash cans, like plastic ones, and then we had like these wooden sticks, and we poured watered down paint onto it. And then the kids we asked them to dress in like old clothes or white clothes, and they drummed, and the paint splattered up, and they had like safety glasses on, and they got covered in paint. So we do enjoy some messy crafts for projects.
You know your audience.
Yes, they enjoy them very much, and we always try and tie them into learning components. And so, fingers crossed that all that stuff can be happening next year, because I really like that kind of stuff. So we've been making it work virtually, though.
Yes, hopefully we'll be able to know far enough ahead of time so that you can know how to plan for summer reading next year, whether you're planning for in person or virtually.
right? Because I feel
Or a
like there was a
mixture
lot of
of
people were
both.
in the boat of like very last minute having to change their plans. And so if we know from the get-go that everything's going to be virtual programming, then you can at least like put something together, have like a really awesome virtual program versus like hurry and crash some ideas and you can be like, ah, that'll work.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and don't rule out the fact that you might be having hybrid programs into
True.
the where you're going to have some digital and some in person,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because you got the equipment now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, just I guess this would be a question. Is everybody doing okay? Is everybody feeling better, worse? I mean, you don't have to say yes or no, but just let us know, you know, just be aware that this stuff affects you guys too. And, you know, if you're, you know, we care what happens and things like that. I mean, this is a stress on all of us. And I just would like, you know, go, if you get a chance, do go to the state website and check out the 10-minute wellness things. And, you know, and see if there's some behaviors there that you're recognizing or seeing in staff or yourselves or even our patrons. And, you know, awareness will help stop this from getting worse.
Yes, that's a very good point, Bruce. And one of the things that the presenter said also was that it's important for library staff to take care of themselves first. If you are in a good place and are grounded, then you're going to be able to help people more than if you are not taking care of your own needs. So I think it's important to keep in mind now that as I mean, obviously, this is stressful for everyone, and just recognizing that it is okay to realize and acknowledge that you do need to take care of yourself as well as everybody else.
So are we done?
I have nothing else. Does anybody else have anything you want to add?
Anybody?
Well, it looks like we're close to the end of the hour.
Mm.
So thank you, everyone, and we will see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you both for your time. You guys are appreciated too. It's Judy from
Uh,
Washington.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks for helping us out.
No problem. Are we stop recording?
Let me